The second story this evening is The Spirit is Willing by Tony Stowell. Tony was born and educated in Surrey, and after being commissioned in the RAF, he graduated from Cambridge with an MA in History. In 1988, he and his wife Rosalind came to live in Tetbury, where he was mayor in 2001 to 2003. He is the chair of the Cotswold Writers' Circle and has written 2 full-length novels and a book about education. His poetry has been read on Poetry Please on Radio 4. Please welcome, reading The Spirit is Willing, Tony Stowell.
The Spirit is Willing. Thank you all for coming. I think we know why we're here, and I hope I can count on you for support in the proposition which I am now in a position to put to you. Only another ghost can realise just how infuriating it is to be invisible. We can wait for days in a corridor and wave our arms intimidatingly, but the living people simply ignore us. We can move behind a man reading a book and breathe down his neck, but he merely checks the window or shuts the door. We might just as well not exist. As you all know, there are very few smart-ass ghosts who have discovered how to make themselves visible in the live world. And they have a great time, although so they tell us. But for the overwhelming majority of us, any amount of spectral needs training doesn't begin to help us materialise to any significant way. It is the same with sounds. Very few of us can manage an audible groan, certainly not a hoarse or rasping whisper, and this, combined with invisibility, makes it almost impossible to conduct any responsible haunting. However, I have definitely rejected the temptation to become a poltergeist. To begin with, it takes a very long period of training, and is really only open to ex-psychopaths, former rock stars, and Millwall supporters. In any case, they're regarded as the hooligan element of our ghost world, and I don't particularly want to be associated with them. Unfortunately, this leaves many of us with a deeply unsatisfactory existence. I feel unrecognised and therefore unfulfilled without any purpose. So there you have it. I've outlined the problems of boredom and a lack of recognition on our part and of general ignorance in the living world. The question now arises, what can be done about it? There are 2 main problems, one of perception and one of practicality. The first is, I have no wish to upset the world population or attempt to scare them out of their wits. I simply want to talk to them. And as most of the live world thinks ghosts are only there to throw things about or frighten them to death, it's important to use a modicum of tact. The second problem is how to achieve a breakthrough in manifestation technology. So far, this line of development has barely come out of the Middle Ages and is ripe for exploitation. Almost nobody in the living world claims to have seen a ghost or have had any meaningful converse with us. Any attempted contact usually results in a stifled scream on their part, with possible loss of consciousness, followed later by a garbled and incoherent recollection of what actually happened. People have only to find themselves in a dark, unfamiliar place, and their imagination does the rest. They see what they expect to see. One of us might actually be there and try to stir things up a bit just for fun. But the point is that nothing very meaningful ever comes of such encounters. It has always been like this. Few of the living have ever been able to communicate with us or understand more than an occasional, almost inaudible word. Very few can be like Hamlet, and even he had to read between the lines. It is time that we applied modern techniques to obtain a more constructive dialogue and exploit the huge market which I'm sure exists. I'm proud to announce that I, after prolonged researches, am in a position to propose a plan where these problems may be solved in an acceptable, one-step development. Now, it's well known that otherwise inaudible sound can be recorded and then processed so that it can be replayed within the range of human hearing. Examples of this have been demonstrated in the singing of whales, the squeaking of bats, and the voice of Charlotte Church. Well, I'm in the process of designing equipment which will do the same for ghosts. Any spirit will be able to speak into it, and instantly the sound will be processed and transposed to the audio living range of the living. It will only be necessary to have a one-way system, as ghosts can hear living speech without any assistance. So much so that we sometimes wish we could hear less of it, especially around the time of the Eurovision Song Contest or any Jonathan Ross programme. My invention is a simple device, a small box housing a special filter amplifier, which I have given the working name of Telephantom until it receives the proper marketing treatment. The vision thing is slightly different, but space research has had a spin-off, which is there to be exploited. Like sound, where only certain frequencies can be heard by the living ear, so certain wavelengths of light can be detected by the living eye. The remedy is clear. A lens can be specially treated to filter the light coming into the living eye, allowing only those rays emanating from the spirit world to be seen. All the usual clutter of News 24 or Celebrity Love Island can be eliminated. Since our unliving world does not have access to an off switch, these proto-devices have already become popular among my friends and colleagues. In case you are thinking that this is all very fine in theory, but impossible in practice, then I have to tell you that the technology already exists. You will almost certainly have seen ghosting on television sets, and strange ghostly figures on developed films from cameras. And you probably put these things down to freak weather or strange light conditions. But you would be wrong. It was me experimenting. And I can now reveal that I am in a position to put the design for my special filters out for contract. It has a classical simplicity and consists of a couple of specially treated lenses or light glasses, which I refer to as Spectaclear. This is how the system will work. Anyone in the living world who wants to communicate with us can do so merely by purchasing the new Telephantom and Spectaclear technology. They will have access to lifelong speaking time with as many of us as they like, and return calls will be entirely free. On more advanced models, we might introduce an LED display window in the Spectaclears for split conversations or even conferencing. And I've also, in the design stage, is an optional parental control device for censoring sights and sounds considered too frightening for children, and I've called it the Paxman button. The possibilities for future developments are endless. The great advantage of this programme is that only those people who are interested will wish to make use of my state-of-the-art technology, rather like their mobile phones. The devices may possibly be abused by the living, for instance, if they seek to monopolise the frequencies with futile questions to some of their departed relatives on mundane matters such as which car to buy or what the weather's going to be like on Tuesday or which horse will win the derby. But we shall be in a position to prevent this by simply not responding. Too much familiarity would breed contempt, and I'm sure that the unliving world would wish to retain a certain degree of mystery and distance. I have great hopes for my new technology. It will open up an exciting world for entrepreneurial spirits like me by relieving the crushing boredom of a purposeless existence. And at the same time, those in the living world who do wish to communicate with us, for instance with ancestral voices prophesying war and such, can do so in a rational and user-friendly way. Those who do not wish to acknowledge our presence can happily continue to imagine we do not exist. It is a win-win situation. There's only one problem. At the moment, I do not have the ability to mass-produce the advanced but comparatively simple devices which are the culmination of my research. The concept and the technology are both in place, and all I need now is a partner to secure the manufacturing rights. If it is to be properly marketed, it will have to be done soon, well before the autumn, so that the living can have a chance to accustom themselves to the system and prepare for the shortening days and darkening nights that are the natural prerequisites for serious manifestation, and a commercial launch in time for the next Christmas market. So you have the business plan before you, and I can see that you're all as excited about the project as I am. I just have one request. Can anybody suggest how I can urgently get in touch with Bill Gates?